Lastly, General Marshall said, the more alarming and disquieting the reports received or the conditions viewed in battle, the more determined must be your attitude. Never ask for relief of your unit and never hesitate to attack. You see, General Marshall had an offensive mind. General Marshall gave the United States Army an offensive mindset. We ought to be the army that continually takes the fight to the enemy, that has determination, that can live the soldier's creed. I will always place the mission first. I will never accept defeat. I will never quit. I will never leave a fallen comrade. That offensive spirit should beat in the breast of every leader. So, turning from General Marshall's 4 points of optimism, energy, loyalty, and offensive spirit, I turn to a historian, Douglas Southall Freeman, who in the 1930s went and lectured the Command and General Staff majors about leadership, having studied the Army of Northern Virginia from the Civil War and watched the World War I Army fight. Douglas Southall Freeman, who wrote Lee's Lieutenants, a study in leadership, had 3 observations, which are carried forward today, I believe. The first is to know your stuff. That's what he said, know your stuff, in the 1930s. His example was Stonewall Jackson, who served here at Virginia Military Institute as a professor. And he said that General Jackson had an uncanny ability to blend cavalry, infantry, and artillery and set him apart on the battlefield, what we would call today a combined arms leader. And so as you begin this journey to serve and lead, will you know your stuff? Will you take your time from graduation to arriving to read our doctrine, to read appropriate history, to reflect on your experiences in ROTC or in the Army? Some of you are former service members, as I can see by the decorations on your chest. Will you reflect on those experiences and bring those experiences forward to know your stuff? The Center for Army Lessons Leadership has a book called The First 100 Days. You can get it online. I commend it to you to read it because it's about the first 100 days in combat. And the whole idea about the book is to prevent casualties. So as you get ready to go and lead in combat, you ought to read about the first 100 days. But I'd encourage you on knowing your stuff to plunge in the profession of arms. Don't hold back. Don't be timid. Plunge in. Your soldiers need the best of leadership. Secondly, Douglas Southall Freeman said, be a man. And what he meant in that period of time was to be a leader of character, to live the Army values. Easy to say, tough to live. Soldiers expect you to embody and demonstrate the Army values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And you know that includes social media. Many of you will take off the uniform and get onto Twitter, MySpace, Facebook, YouTube accounts and act in another way. Some of you do not live the value of loyalty in blogs because you tear apart your unit, your friends, or perhaps your cadre in ROTC in these blogs. They're there. We see them every day of what happens in the social media. You are an officer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You will be a former soldier until you die. So live our values in and out of uniform and in social media. Be the leader of character that Douglas Southall Freeman asked the leaders of the Second World War to be. Mark Twain said, it is curious that physical courage should be so common in the world and moral courage should be so rare. You will be expected to be both physically courageous and morally courageous, and you will find the latter the tougher of the two, but you must be morally courageous in and out of uniform. Thirdly, Douglas Southall Freeman said, take care of your soldiers. In taking care of your soldiers, the furthest thing from his mind was coddling soldiers. What was in his mind was training soldiers to standard, to ensuring that soldiers do indeed know the big four of marksmanship, first aid, battle drills, and physical fitness. Again, I'm reminded of a lieutenant in the 10th Mountain Division, Lieutenant Christine Richardson, a Transportation Corps officer who arrived to her platoon just prior to a deployment to Afghanistan, assessed the platoon and said, what we must be is experts with our rifles. And the non-commissioned officer said, no ma'am, we have to conduct maintenance on our vehicles. We have to learn to drive with trailers. We have to learn to carry loads. We have to learn to be in convoys. There's too much to do more marksmanship. And she said, no, for my assessment, what we need to be is experts, and that's what we're going to be. So much to her command's dissatisfaction, they went to the ranges and worked as hard as they could to be experts. Fast forward 6 months into Afghanistan, into July of 2006 in Helmand province, which we read about so much. There weren't 8,000 people, British, and 3,000 Marines in Helmand. When Christine Richardson was there were probably about 200. But leading her platoon in a convoy, they were attacked and outnumbered by the Taliban. They immediately returned fire, and one sergeant personally killed 4 of the enemy in his opening shots. As the convoy got through with no casualties, accomplished their mission, the sergeants came to her and said, ma'am, what people need to be is experts with their rifle. And because she understood training your soldiers and taking care of your soldiers, it was not time off, it was time on the rifle ranges to be experts. She got it. These 7 ideas of optimism, energy, loyalty, offensive spirit, knowing our stuff, being a leader of character, and taking care of our troops are timeless principles handed down from one remarkable leader, General Marshall, and one remarkable historian, Douglas Southall Freeman. I have tried in 35 years of service to beat them. I've tried to figure other ideas. I've asked non-commissioned officers, warrant officers, and officers, what do you think? Do they have it right? And indeed, they do, and they did. These ideas will help you to have a compass and move in the right direction in these uncertain circumstances. We live in a time of persistent conflict, of what we refer to as VUCA, a violent, unpredictable, complex, and ambiguous time. Violent, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Our enemies live in caves, but as they run out of caves, they run out of the cave with a weapon and a computer. Who'd have thought? Economies are changing, and indeed the world is changing. But your spirit will set you apart. Your leadership will make the biggest difference on the battlefield. Your leadership and these 7 principles will see you through. General Marshall said, it's not enough to fight. It's the spirit which we bring to the fight, the leadership that decides the issue. It's morale that wins the victory. It's your duty to be better tomorrow than you are today. And that's what this seminar is about. Improving yourself and being better tomorrow than you are today. Your duty. Keep reading, keep learning, seek out mentors, listen to your non-commissioned officers, and grow in your leading experience. Our soldiers, our Army, and our nation, indeed our country, is counting on your leadership today and tomorrow. In all of our formations, they eagerly await your arrival. In our active duty, National Guard, and Reserve formations, they await you. I'll close with this quote, delivered by Joseph Warren in 1775 after the Boston Massacre. Our country is in danger, but not to be despaired of. Our enemies are numerous and powerful, but we have many friends determining to be free, and heaven and earth will aid our resolution. On you depend the fortunes of America. You are to decide the importance of the question, on which rests the happiness and liberty of millions yet unborn. Act worthy of yourselves. Best of luck in your service to our country and in leading our soldiers. Participate in these coming days. Don't hide out in seminar. And may God bless you as you prepare to serve and lead. May God bless our deployed forces. May God bless our Army. And may God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Army Strong. Ooh.